Hi there, I'm Tony Lee, and this is Hot Flasher, your daily menopause podcast that serves up fresh news, research, and wellness tips. I've built a daily news pipeline to find the latest on women's health and menopause research. Allow me to introduce my co-host, Nikki, who handles the headlines. Take it away, Nikki.
Thanks, Tony. We've got some eye-opening stuff today. I want to start with a story that's going to sound familiar to a lot of you. There's a piece in Newsweek about a woman who was dealing with brain fog, that fuzzy, can't quite think straight feeling that so many of us experience during perimenopause and menopause. She did what most of us would do. She figured it was just part of the hormonal chaos. But when she finally got to her doctor, they found something else entirely. Now, the article doesn't specify exactly what her alternative diagnosis was, but this raises something really important that I think we need to talk about. Brain fog is real, and yes, it's absolutely linked to hormonal changes during menopause. But it's not the only possible explanation. This is one of those situations where being our own advocates becomes crucial. If your brain fog is severe, if it's interfering with your daily life, or if it's accompanied by other symptoms that don't seem quite right, it's worth having that conversation with your healthcare provider. Sometimes what looks like menopause is menopause. Sometimes it's thyroid issues, sleep disorders, vitamin deficiencies, or other conditions that can be treated. The tricky part is that brain fog during menopause is so common, research suggests it affects up to 60% of women during the transition. So it makes perfect sense that we'd assume that's what's happening. But this woman's story is a good reminder that we don't have to just accept every symptom as inevitable. What I found interesting about her experience is that she waited quite a while before seeking help. And I get it. When you're in your 40s or 50s and experiencing brain fog, the narrative is often, well, this is just what happens now. But that mindset can sometimes work against us. Moving on to something that actually surprised me. There's new research from Medscape about women with PCOS polycystic ovary syndrome and how they experience menopause. The findings are pretty counterintuitive. Women with PCOS tend to go through menopause later than women without the condition, and they report fewer menopause symptoms overall. Now, if you know anything about PCOS, this might seem backwards. PCOS is associated with irregular periods, insulin resistance, weight gain, not exactly what you'd expect to lead to an easier menopause experience. But when you dig into the hormonal picture, it starts to make more sense. Women with PCOS often have higher levels of androgen's male hormones, like testosterone, throughout their reproductive years. As estrogen drops during menopause, having some of those other hormones around might provide a bit of a buffer. The later menopause part is interesting too. The research suggests that women with PCOS might have more eggs in reserve, which could explain why their ovaries keep functioning longer. It's like having a bigger retirement account. It takes longer to run out. Now, this doesn't mean PCOS is a good thing or that women with the condition should skip menopause planning. PCOS comes with its own set of challenges throughout life. But for women who've been dealing with PCOS symptoms for years, there might be a small silver lining when it comes to the menopause transition. What's also worth noting is that this research might help doctors better understand what to expect when treating menopausal women with a history of PCOS. The standard approach might need some tweaking. The third thing I want to cover comes from a recent medical conference, the American Academy of Neurology meeting. They had a whole session on how the menopausal transition affects neurological risk in women, specifically looking at migraines and Alzheimer's disease. If you're someone who deals with migraines, you probably already know that hormones play a huge role. Many women find their migraine patterns change dramatically during perimenopause. Some get more frequent migraines, some find they change in character, and interestingly, some women actually see improvement after menopause when hormones stabilize at lower levels. The research presented at this conference reinforced something we've known for a while. Estrogen fluctuations during perimenopause can be a major migraine trigger. But they also talked about how hormone therapy decisions might affect migraine patterns, which is important information for women trying to weigh the pros and cons of treatment. The Alzheimer's piece is more complex and honestly still evolving. We know that women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's than men, and some research suggests the drop in estrogen during menopause might play a role in that increased risk. The brain has estrogen receptors, and estrogen seems to have some protective effects on brain function. And this is important, we're still learning about these connections. The relationship between hormones and brain health is incredibly complex, and researchers are working to understand not just whether there's a link, but what we might be able to do about it. What I think is valuable about this conference session is that it's bringing attention to the fact that menopause isn't just about hot flashes and mood changes. The hormonal transition affects multiple body systems, including our neurological function. That doesn't mean we're destined for problems, but it does mean these are factors worth discussing with healthcare providers, especially if you have a family history of neurological conditions or if you're noticing changes that concern you. One thing that struck me about all three of these stories is how they highlight the importance of individualized care during menopause. The woman with brain fog needed a different approach than someone whose cognitive symptoms are directly hormone related. Women with PCOS might have a different menopause experience than those without. And women with migraine or family history of Alzheimer's might need to factor neurological considerations into their treatment decisions. It makes me wonder how many women are out there assuming their symptoms are just normal menopause stuff, when there might be other explanations or additional support available. What symptoms have you been writing off as just part of the process?
Thanks for listening to Hot Flasher. We're back tomorrow with more, so don't forget to subscribe. See you tomorrow.